Hi guys, my name is Jade and I'm here to present you AIPenGuild. The first problem is that the current NFT ecosystem lacks true gaming interoperability, forcing each game or the apps to recreate assets from scratch. Second is that missing reward system for active participation. So without these extra incentives, users will be having a hard time to engage in the NFT marketplace projects. Third problem is that there's no unified system to assign AI generated attributes. So there's no standardized metadata for any other blockchain applications to interact with. So the solution is the introduction of AI driven NFT creation. Now we use a LLM to generate prompts and JSON metadata and to generate AI images. Next is the gamification, and we solve that by adding XP. And third solution is that we provide interoperable cross-chain attributes. Now we provide standardized JSON structure so that external developers or external blockchain apps could easily integrate our solution to their application. And fourth solution is the developer-friendly REST API. So instead of these developers using their own RPC URL, we provide solution by exposing our REST API endpoint to this user, which is well documented on our documentation page. Now in my project, we provide 6 smart contracts, and which will be discussed in here. So it all starts with the user. The user will see the front end. My front end uses Next.js, and on the minting page specifically, users could enter or input their prompt in the input field and select the category that they want. So they could select currently characters, power-ups, and game items, but future developers could just add more categories based on the application or blockchain apps that they want to integrate. So once the user click on the generate metadata, it will be processed in the backend. So in my backend, it comprises of OpenAI plus replicate to generate JSON and the artwork itself, which will be uploaded to the IPFS. And once the user click on the mint button, it will interact with the NFT creator collection smart contracts. So if the user doesn't have enough balance, then the transaction will fail. If the user has enough balance, then the process will continue. It calls the NFT minting platform smart contracts that assigns the XP of that specific users and mint that NFT. So it updates the XP of the user first by calling the user experience point smart contracts that tracks the XP balances of each users. Then it transfers the final NFT to the user's wallet. Now when the user has already received that NFT, they have two options to whether stake it or list it. If the user tries to stake the NFT, then it calls the NFT staking pool smart contract, which tracks the acquired XP per second. And in order to update the XP of that specific user, it calls also the user experience point smart contract. Now if the user tries to list their NFT for sale, it will call the NFT marketplace hub smart contract. And if other user try to buy the listed NFT of that specific user, then 90% will go to the seller and 10% fee will go to the rewards pool, which will only be accessible by the admin. We determine the admin by checking the deployer of the contract. If the transaction to claim the reward pool is not triggered by the admin, then the transaction will fail. Next is the API architecture. So this is the API architecture. I already explained this. This is basically the AI services. I'm talking about this first part. Let's focus here in this gaming directory. Now, the developers can call these subdirectories in my API endpoints to fetch user NFTs, fetch user XPs, fetch single NFT. These are basically the to get the metadata or the owned NFT of the users, right? So instead of just of these external blockchain, the blockchain application using their own RPC URL to read this data. They could just call this API of my project to ease the load of their server. So yeah. So last is it returns XP tier ranges plus label. So I'll explain this to you guys in here. So how to use. So yeah, in order for this to work, the overall architecture, the user needs to connect their wallet first, and I already explained this. Now let's go over to the pages. This is the home page, minting page, my NFTs, marketplace, stake, leaderboard. Now let's focus on the leaderboard. And for the last API endpoint, it says that it returns the corresponding XP ranges for the title, right? And as you can see on this column, it shows the title of the user that corresponds to their XP ranges, So this API endpoint returns a dictionary of those mappings. Now this is the dashboard, developers API, or the documentation page. Now for the future deployments. So currently my project supports multiple networks, right? So the first one is the Moonbase Alpha, and the West End and Moonbeam, but it doesn't really have integrated bridging yet. So future developers could just create a smart contract that really triggers cross-chain bridging of the NFTs. And next future development is the DAO governance. So yeah, and in AIPenGuild, we focus in guild or community, and we already provide incentives or XP, and we could enhance the participation even more by letting the community vote on the reward full usage, not just the admin. So third is the expanded AI models, especially if you are using high-end server. You could just use or integrate self-hosted AIs to further enhance the quality of the generated AI output. And the last future development is the enhanced game integration. And yeah, you could offer advanced metadata. Currently, our project just support category of character, power-ups, and game items. But in the future, in order to support complex games, developers could easily integrate advanced metadata structures that corresponds to each of the categories. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening.